That was very well said. That was very
Okay.
well said.
Well, I'm an articulate motherfucker.
You're a wordsmith. This is Justin Lesko, Brazilian Jiu Jitsu brown belt and former pro MMA fighter.
And I'm Mike Callahan, Brazilian Jiu Jitsu brown belt and a law enforcement officer.
Welcome to That Jiu Jitsu Podcast. A very busy weekend in the world of grappling and the world of fighting. And on Saturday night, I was doing the old two screens where I had, on my laptop, I had Third Coast was up and going, and then I had the UFC up on the TV.
Yeah.
Poor Amanda Jean. She likes MMA and she likes jiu-jitsu, but I don't think she likes me forcing her to watch both at the same time.
Well, listen, this is a product of the quarantine.
Yeah, I mean, at this point, I've already made her be the legs in some of my leg lock tutorial videos.
Yeah,
I'm making her watch fights every weekend. She secretly loves it, but she can still come back and use it against me.
She's going to be an assassin. She's going to be an assassin when she comes out of here.
That's the goal, is to have her like a secret undercover ninja.
Think of Angelina Jolie in Mrs. or Mr. and Mrs. Smith.
Wait, does that make me Brad Pitt?
No.
Are you sure?
No. Yes.
You heard it here first.
No, I didn't say that.
The Third Coast card, I had never seen this before, and I was watching the Third Coast card. They did the kids battle royale. Have you seen that play out before?
It was pandemonium on that fucking mat.
Dude, it was so wild.
It was pandemonium on that mat. Yeah, you didn't know what was going on at first.
So if you haven't seen it, basically the way it works is there's two kids matches happening at the same time. And I think there's 10 total competitors. And once you get submitted, you're out. And once someone gets submitted, a new kid can come in and replace them. So if me and Mike were doing this and I have Mike's back and I'm finishing a rear naked choke, as soon as Mike taps, someone else can just jump on my back and start choking me, which is what happened 4 times. Kids were getting tapped and then people were jumping on the guy's back right away. It went on for
a modified Shark Tank.
It went on for
it was crazy.
It was like a modified Shark Tank, but there was no beginning to matches. Once a match was happening, you could just run over, and you could also have 2 people grappling, and a third person could come in and start attacking one of those 2 people already grappling. It was one of the wildest things I'd ever seen.
So I think, I don't know why they called it a battle royale, because it's not really a battle royale or a battle royal, as I like to call it. Given my vast knowledge of professional wrestling and the history of that sport, it's more like a Survivor Series event in the WWE, WWF back then, or a fall brawl / war games event in the WCW, during which they are enclosed. They're in this steel cage with a roof on it. So, and it's teams. A battle royal is everybody jumps in, they just all beat the shit out of each other. I'm on board with that, but I think it's illegal to do that with children.
Yeah.
So.
And for anyone still listening after Mike started talking about professional wrestling, this kids battle royal thing, it was really wild for 10 minutes, and it looked like the kids had a lot of fun. I would totally do this. I would totally have the open mat, but the matches don't start. You just start going at each other, and if you get tapped, you're out.
Nah, it's crazy.
But then they had an actual fight between 2 knuckleheads who just kept slapping the shit out of each other's faces.
Fucking idiots. If
you didn't watch the event and you didn't see the fight and the quote-unquote fight, just these 2 guys kept grabbing for each other's necks like a collar tie and progressively started slapping each other harder and harder as they were trying to grab.
Collar ties. And then it finished up with a leg kick. If anybody knows who these people are and you're watching this, please tag them so they can hear us call them fucking idiots.
Yeah. You're a fucking idiot. And both of you... Well, they both got suspended by Third Coast. The one guy got suspended for a year or something. It doesn't matter. I mean, there's whatever.
They'll never go back there.
No.
They should have just said you'll never fight here again.
No.
They're fucking
so
idiots.
Go
fight MMA. If that's what you want to do, go fight MMA. Fucking throwing leg kicks.
Yeah, come on, man. And then they get split up. First of all, the referee in this match did not a damn thing until it was full on. We're about to punch each other. Letting these dudes slap the hell out of each other. That's a bad referee. But then they separate these 2 dudes, and one dude sprints. My man is in a full sprint across the mat to try to fight this guy. Melee ensues. Just
Coaches are involved. One
just
coach or teammate takes his socks off
yeah, he did the
because,
classic tough guy move of like, all right, I'm gonna go after this guy. Wait, the path is too clear to him. I should take my socks off and wait for someone to come over and get in between us.
Yeah. Yeah. It's not real yet. All right, I took my socks off. Shit's about to go down.
It was embarrassing.
Fuck out of here.
It was embarrassing.
It was fucking embarrassing.
So aside from all of that nonsense, it was actually a really stacked, very well done event.
Yeah, looking past that whole fucking debacle, obviously there was the Kumite. It was an 8-man bracket with 8 killers. Huge names in that. Cyborg came out on top. And then the main event was a charity match that featured Brian Marvin, who's a black belt owner, head instructor out at Renzo Gracie in Houston, and Gordon Ryan.
The best in the world, Gordon Ryan.
Gordon fucking Ryan.
So yeah, we're actually pretty lucky. We actually have Brian Marvin is going to come on right now, and he's going to give us some insight into that match and into the charity and into the event itself. So please welcome Brian Marvin. Professor Brian Marvin, how are you, sir?
I'm great. How you guys doing?
Brian, thanks for coming on the show.
For those who don't know, one of your students who you actually just promoted to black belt, Josh from Always Be Choking, he's been sponsoring me for a long time, and we were just chatting the other day, and he was like, oh, my professor's doing a charity match coming up, and I was like, oh, we got to get him on. You got to make the connection happen, so I appreciate you coming on and chatting with us.
Yeah, I appreciate you guys having me. Thanks.
Yeah,
for sure.
The only thing I ask in return is that if you could get Josh to stop sponsoring Justin, that'd be great, because Justin's doing nothing to advance his product. So go ahead.
Sounds good.
He's just jealous because I'm not sharing with him.
He's there in class today, so I'll have a long discussion with him tomorrow about the situation.
Yeah, that's great.
He sent me a video of what was one of his last roles as a brown belt, and he was working for a Darce choke against you, and you just wouldn't let him have it, and then you ended up taking his back, and I think you gave him a good beatdown for the last one as a brown belt. But
yeah, that was fun. He's a great role. A lot of good training together.
Yeah, he came out our way a couple months ago, and I finally got to roll with him, and he gave me a little bit of work. I don't want to say on air that he gave me too much work, but he gave me a little bit of the work. You guys just had a big anniversary at your academy, right?
Yeah, 6 years. I opened up July of 2015, about 6 months from when I retired from the Army. So we've been open 6 years now.
Very cool. Very cool. Congratulations.
Thanks. I appreciate it.
Were you stationed out there?
Yeah, I was down here in recruiting. I left Fort Campbell in 2012. They sent me down here, or they asked where I wanted to go. I was in recruiting, so when they brought up Houston, I immediately said yes. I knew the jiu-jitsu scene down here, and I was anxious to move someplace and get back to training at a higher level than what I was at currently. Not that it wasn't at a super high level there, but at the time I was Gracie Baja, and I knew Draculino was down here. So when they said, hey, do you want to go to Houston? I was like, absolutely, immediately, yes. Without a question, I'd love to go down there and try to learn underneath Draculino. So that was a big thing to it. And I was married at the time, and she wanted to get near a beach and a warmer climate. And so Texas, Houston, at least it's Galveston, but it's Surfside and pretty close to the beach. So met all the criteria, and I decided to move down here. And then once I retired, I decided to stay. I wasn't planning on opening up an academy. Sorry to lead into probably some more questions that you were going to ask me, but
listen, go. You lead the way. Go ahead. We had you want to talk, not us talk.
Yeah.
The more that you talk, the less I have to listen to Justin. So just
right. When I was getting ready to retire, I was going to move back to Tennessee to the Nashville area and do something in law enforcement, be a cop. But a family that I had taught their son approached me about investing in me and us to open up an academy, and I thought about it and decided to do that. It was really never in my plans to do this, but I sure am glad that I did. So,
how did the connection with Enzo happen?
So honestly, it happened through a couple different things. I was trying to get him here to do a seminar, and that guy's like tougher than the president to get locked down. That guy goes and travels so much, as an ambassador for Brazilian Jiu Jitsu and, himself. as a competitor and coach. But had been trying to get him down here, and then I became the president of the We Defy Foundation, and it was my goal to try to get two big name academies on each side of the country, because Midwest was pretty good, but two big name academies or professors on each side of the country to start working the coastlines. And obviously it was going to be Henzo on the East Coast, and then I was trying to work with Salo Ibero and those guys, and Andre Gaval on the West Coast to try to get those guys intertwined in the We Defy Foundation. And through negotiating, trying to get his academy as a We Defy Foundation academy, I talked to him like probably for extensive periods of times where we're trying to get him here for a seminar, through try to get him with We Defy, which eventually we did, about 2-year period of time. And it came to the point where I had to make a decision if I was going to stay with Gracie Baja or leave. And I decided to, based on the relationship that I had made with him and his similar, mindset of, fighting style and grappling and jiu-jitsu, through the conversations that we had, it was a natural fit to try to ask him if he'd allow me to be on his team. And he immediately said yes. And it's been 2 years now that I've been on Renzo Gracie's team, and it's been amazing the things that we've been able to do together, and then as a team to kind of expand jiu-jitsu down here in Texas a little bit under his name.
So you mentioned the We Defy Foundation. How did you get involved with them, and can you just tell us a little bit more about it in case anyone's not familiar with what the work you guys are doing?
Yeah, the We Defy Foundation is a 501c nonprofit organization. It was started by two people, Joey Bosick and Alan Shabaro, both of which are two of my best friends in the world. And so they started a foundation based off of some history that Joey had trying to, or Alan trying to get Joey into training jiu-jitsu. Joey's a AAA amputee. He was blown up by an IED in Iraq in his Humvee. He was an MP. And so he's a AAA amputee. And he was trying to get his daughter involved in jiu-jitsu for obviously the anti-bullying and confidence and self-defense aspects of it as well, and brought him to Alan Shabaro's academy, Tier 1, which is now Combat Base Texas, up in McKinney, Texas. And Alan said to Joey, well, why don't you train too? And he's like, well, I'm a triple amputee, dude. What am I going to do? Paraphrasing the story. And so eventually what happened is Alan convinced Joey to start training jiu-jitsu. They started out with private lessons, and then Joey got into regular classes, found a love for it, found that he didn't have limitations, and he could prove people wrong, thinking that a triple amputee or people that have disabilities or debilitating mental conditions through PTSD or TBI or anything like that, severe depression or anxiety, can get release through Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. So they decided if it worked for Joey, like it could work for other veterans that are out there. So they developed this We Defy Foundation that tries to use Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu as a form of therapy and physical fitness for disabled combat veterans. So the We Defy Foundation pays for the scholarship of disabled combat veterans to train jiu-jitsu at certified training facilities throughout the United States. The only criteria is you have to have, I believe the level right now is 85%, at least be at 85% combat disabled. And you have to have a good conduct discharge. You can't have, other than honorable conditions discharge, it has to be an honorable discharge. And you have to go through an application process, interview with the academy to make sure it's a good fit for everyone involved. And then the veteran starts training jiu-jitsu. The We Defy Foundation provides 6-month scholarships at a time for a total of 1 year, and they get 1 gi per that 6 months period. So it's, in essence, it's 2 gis, 12 months worth of training, free to the veteran, paid directly to the academy to train that student or that veteran.
That's incredible.
It's a very, 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 very worthy cause. If people are listening and they wanted to maybe donate or get involved, where can they find more information to do that?
They can go to www.wedefyfoundation.org. On the right-hand side, there should be or actually probably in the middle as it pops up, it'll say become a donor or get involved. And you can do one-time donations. You can do reoccurring donations that are always helpful. But in general, what we try to do, or what the We Defy Foundation tries to do, is it takes about $2,000 per veteran per year for their scholarship. Some academies charge no tuition to veterans that train there through the We Defy Foundation, which helps get even more veterans training. Other academies that still charge, which it's no problem to us. I mean, we understand that these are small business owners as well. A lot of them veterans, just like myself, was a veteran that's a small business owner that owns an academy as well. So we have no problem paying their tuition, but we just have to raise those funds to do it. And it takes about $2,000 per. So regularly we used to do, 1 to 2 seminars a month throughout the United States raising money. Then we evolved into doing fundraising galas that did a lot of, raised a ton of money for us. Jeff Perez with New Defion made gis and sold gis for us. That the proceeds went to the We Defy Foundation, so that was helpful as well. But this year we weren't able to do they weren't able to do a gala. So there was no huge fundraising effort just because of the Corona situation. We did it in April last year. So we're right in the middle of the pandemic. What do? Third Coast Grappling and Ryan McGuire came up with a great idea to be able to do this basically charity exhibition match between me, combat disabled veteran, and the greatest no-gi grappler of all times right now, Gordon Ryan. So they approached me about doing that, and Ryan first said, "Hey, what do you think about a no-gi match with a veteran with Gordon Ryan to raise money for the We Defy Foundation?" I said, "Man, that'd be a really cool idea." I said, "Let me think if I could find anybody that would, want to go against that guy or would fit that criteria to compete against him." And he waited like 5 minutes. He's like, "Well, what about you?" Like me. I'm like, "Well, what about me? I'm out here watching, saying hi, but what about me?" I'm like, "You don't want me grappling that guy." But he's like, "No, I think it'd be a good thing." And, I thought about it. We're both Hinzo Gracie guys, and I've had Gordon here 2 times at my academy for seminars, and he was at the other academy that I'm partners with up in Lake Houston for the seminar last Sunday. So I said, sure, why not? I'm like, I mean, people are going to, which really kind of, I thought was comical. People still hated on the guy.
It's unbelievable.
Still hated on the guy.
Yeah.
For donating 100% of his time and effort to fly from New Jersey to Texas, stay here, compete against me in an exhibition match solely to raise money for veterans in the We Defy Foundation. And all the comments are like, "Why are you competing against that guy? What? Why?
Yep.
You'll fight against that old guy, or that who even is that guy? Has he even done anything?" Like, they missed the point entirely. So, I mean,
people just want to hate. People will find whatever reason. If they don't like one person, they can find whatever they want to say to knock somebody down. And whether or not you like a guy or not, you should respect the cause enough and see what he's trying to do and how he's trying to help.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, even when we were out there, we were talking the whole time about, just people heckling or hating or just saying ridiculous nonsense. Like, he wanted to work some of his open guard stuff. And so he immediately pulled guard. I walked around his guard. They're like, "Oh, you're just going to let him pass your guard." It's like, man, you people are just like blowing my mind right now, like right off the bat hating. So.
Yeah, it's no secret that he's a controversial figure, but if you look at this weekend specifically and you try to put a negative spin on it, it's craziness. It's craziness. The amount of money that you guys raised for this cause, and there should be no negative takeaways from this weekend.
And you're thinking that's five veterans that are now going to have the opportunity to be able to train jiu-jitsu for a year. I mean, everybody that trains jiu-jitsu knows the benefits of jiu-jitsu, especially specifically mentally and physically. Regardless of confidence, regardless of self-defense, regardless of anything, just the mental and physical aspect alone, now we've got 5 veterans that are going to be able to take advantage of this program that they wouldn't have been able to if it weren't for this event and Gordon Ryan and myself competing in this fundraising exhibition match. But,
haters gonna hate.
Right.
Haters gonna hate. So.
Well, the match specifically, you don't have to give us a play-by-play because I think you guys did touch on every single position that could possibly happen throughout the course of a match.
Yeah.
But what was it like being out there and competing? And I know you have a relationship with Gordon, but
Well,
was there anything that surprised you in the match?
not really. We kind of talked about it because I didn't want to go into it with a different mindset than he was going into it. So he came to my 6-year anniversary. The kindness of his soul, an hour up here, an hour back from his hotel when his girlfriend's fighting that night. She's resting. He's normally resting. He takes time to come up here to support, this Renzo Gracie Academy to conduct a seminar with me. So, I mean, first off the bat, that was amazing that he did that for us. And everybody was super happy, to have him here and, supporting the cause. And, that's what a teammate does. But when I dropped him off, the last thing I said, I was like, hey, man, how do you want to work this thing tonight? And just exactly almost what happened. He's like, just work through some positions, top, bottom. If you get to a position where you can attack. If I get to a position where I can attack, I'll turn it up a little bit, and then we'll just work through some stuff. I want to work top, bottom, basically all the positions, and we'll just go through them. And I was like, hey, man, that's exactly what I was thinking. It sounds great to me. And then in my brain, I'm like, man, I'm going to be exhausted. And so anyway, that's what kind of the game plan was. We were just going to play it by ear and kind of, work through some things. Basically, I mean, it was an exhibition match. I have no disillusions that I was going to go out there and try to do anything to this guy. I mean, that wasn't even in the scenario that we were looking at. I mean, he was going to be completely, respectful to each other about what we were doing. And the worst thing possible happened. I accidentally hit him in his lip while we were training. So he's got a cut lip in the middle of his lip. And I'm like, we're out there rolling. And I'm like, dude, I feel so bad for hitting him. Terrible. But he got me back a little bit accidentally. So it was fair play a little bit. But going back to that, like right before we went out there, and he was like, hey, man, if you get to a submission, you get to something, like go for it. Like go for it. He goes, I want to be able to work out of stuff. Like, let's go out there and put on a good show, have fun, and do some things. I'm like, hell yeah, man, let's go do it then. And I really think that's what we did. We were able to go out there, have a little fun, raise some money for a great cause. Obviously, there's, I would never try to make believe that I'm anywhere on that level, no-gi grappling in the world. I'm a
Nobody
right.
is.
Like,
Nobody is.
I'm a good no-gi grappler. I'm significantly better at gi than no-gi. I really prefer the gi, but I would never pass up an opportunity to train no-gi with that guy. Most of the time when I compete no-gi, I just happen to be at a place where like, hey, you want to jump in this tournament? It's got to be no-gi. I'm like, sure, let's go. I mean, I love just the competition aspect of it. And to be able to combine the competition with the fundraising effort with a person of his caliber, I think was just an amazing thing for everything to come together.
Now, what do we have on the horizon? What's next for you or for the charity? What can people look forward to?
Well, this weekend I'm going up to one of my other academies up in Coeur d'Alene, Idaho, to see those guys up there. I'm taking my son with me. We're going to get some training in because he's got a super fight with Submission Hunter Pro on the 24th. Actually, there were supposed to be 2 father and son matches on that card. Myself and my son were going to be competing on it. And then my partner up at Lake Houston, Lester, and his son, Lester Jr., are still competing on it. So they still father-son matchup is going to be going on. But there's a huge representation of Renzo Gracie on that card. So once my matchup wasn't able to happen, I stepped back to be able to coach and support the team in that manner. Instead of trying to force something, I can compete another day for those guys. I've competed for them quite a bit. But to be able to see my son compete and the rest of the team, Joe that's getting ready to start coaching at Renzo Gracie Riverstone, be able to see these guys able to compete as a large group on a card like this is really, really cool. And that's happening not this weekend, next weekend, or next Friday night, the 24th of July.
How old's your son?
17.
Okay. How long has he been training for?
Since he was like 4.
Okay. That's awesome.
He's been training for a year less than I've been training.
Okay.
But he takes breaks on and off for either wrestling or football. He played football for a really long time. He doesn't anymore. Now he just does wrestling and jiu-jitsu. So I'm really looking forward to seeing him compete. I mean, he's been around jiu-jitsu and these fights. I mean, he corners me every single one of my super fights that I do. So I mean, he hopefully will shine in this environment now that it's him and his turn to go up there. I'm really looking forward to see how he does in this environment. It's going to be really, really cool to see.
Are you going to be feeling some more nerves for him to compete than you would when you normally would compete, or are you just excited?
Yeah. Absolutely. Even when he wrestles, I'm like,
yeah, you got no control over it.
Yeah, but anymore, I used to coach him a little bit when he was wrestling, and I definitely coach him when he does jiu-jitsu. But I've learned to, and I wrestled my whole life, but I've learned to sit back and be able to watch him do what he does and let his coaches coach him. And if his coaches don't have the ability to coach him and he needs somebody to coach him, he knows he can always count on me no matter where he's at to be able to coach him. But he's been training long enough. He's got really good mat awareness, and he's got a really good skill for jiu-jitsu, and I'm really going to be looking forward to him going out there. He's a blue belt right now. I gave him his blue belt when he was 16. So I'm looking forward to him going out there and having some fun.
It should be a good time. A good time. Well, Professor Brian, I won't take up too much of your time. We really appreciate you coming on and telling us all about the charity and breaking down the match a little bit for us.
Yeah, no problem at all. I really appreciate you guys having me on and highlighting that matchup and Third Coast Grappling and what Flow Grappling did as well to allow us to be able to put that on for the We Defy Foundation. So, yeah, I appreciate you guys being able to highlight that for us and maybe bring some more attention to what happened and drive a little bit more donations. Right now, the current that they raised, when I heard on Sunday after the event, was $10,000 is what was raised. So it was good to at least hit that mark, and hopefully we can push a little bit further with residual things that come from that with the awareness that gets involved.
Absolutely. Well, thanks again so much, and we'll link to all of the foundation sites. We'll link to yours as well. Yeah. So if you're listening, please get involved and help out a good cause.
Thanks, guys. I really, really appreciate being on and you taking the time to have me on your podcast.
Absolutely. Make sure you beat up Josh for me because I won't see him for a while. So handle that work for me.
Every day.
Thanks, brother. You have a good night.
Take care.
See you guys later.
Big thank you to Brian for coming on and breaking all that down for us and giving us some good information. And we're going to link to all the charity stuff in the description of this episode, and we'll mention it again at the end. But
break out those wallets.
And
break out those wallets, or we're coming to break your fucking thumbs.
I mean, I don't know about all that, but like,
we're just kidding. But donate.
Yeah, donate.
But seriously, fucking donate.
Yeah. I mean, there's not a better cause you can give your money to. If you like jiu-jitsu and you're listening to this show, you obviously do. That's one of the best places you can donate your money. But on the same night that we had the Third Coast card happening, as I mentioned earlier, I was 2 screening with the UFC, and I think you and I were pretty spot on with some of our predictions.
So let's start from the bottom, because like last week we started from the top.
You want to switch it up? We're gonna go opposite.
We'll start
order
here, and then I'll meet you.
Okay. Well, the Rose Andrade fight.
Well, that wasn't at the beginning.
What was before the Rose Andrade fight?
It was the Paige Vanzant and Amanda.
Oh, you're right. Fight. You know what? I completely forgot about that because who cares about Paige Vanzant?
Who the fuck cares,
dude? I knew, and I mentioned in the last week's episode that Amanda Ribas, which I think we were supposed to say Hebas, but Amanda Ribas is a killer, and
yeah,
dude, she's so fun. Like the fight was great. She had a great performance against Paige Vanzant, but the post fight interview and just like what a fun character.
She's got a pretty bright future.
Yeah, if she keeps winning,
10-0, like it's time for a major step up in competition. Like they wanted to. It kind of reminded me years ago. Or it kind of reminded me of years ago with how the UFC did with Roger Huerta. You remember him?
Yeah.
And how they pushed him, and then they realized that he probably wasn't like a top-tier talent. So then it's like, how can we use him to our advantage now since he's not going to... Okay, let's let guys build their names off of his name.
Yeah, yeah. They had built a little bit of a groundwork with Paige. They had pushed her, and Dana already come out and said, yeah, she should test free agency, which means I'm not bringing her back. But I don't want to focus on the negative of Paige. I want to focus on the positive of Amanda Ribas, Amanda Ribas.
Ribas.
Because as previously stated, she's a killer, and I think that, like you said, she should get a big step up in competition. And I'm all about a fighter with a good personality who's got great jiu-jitsu. The transition that she made from when she was in like the Kesikatami, and then Paige tried to roll out, and she hopped over to take the back right away, and then transitioned to the armbar.
Just chaining shit together. It was crazy.
It was very pretty. It was very pretty technique. So, and then I thought she was funny. If a fighter is funny in their post-fight interview, I'm all about him. That was a correct prediction for both of us. Then we had the Andrade Thug Rose fight, and I was happy that Rose fought a good fight.
You were happy that you were wrong in your prediction.
I was happy to be wrong in my prediction because like I said, I wanted to see her perform well, and I'm interested to see her fight against Zhang Wei Li, but I don't think she beats her. But I was happy with the fight. I thought it was a good fight for her.
She was her eye got mangled.
Dude.
She really withstood a lot in that third round, to be honest with you. She was clearly ahead. I didn't think that if it went to a decision after that second round that she was in any danger of losing that fight.
No, she was up 2-0 going into the third, and Andrade, she's going to empty the gas tank. She's going to come at you hard. And Rose weathered the storm.
Yep.
Part of me initially was like, well, if this fight was 5 rounds, Andrade was turning it on and she might have beat her, but I don't think Andrade was keeping that pace.
She wasn't sustaining that. She wasn't sustaining that pace. She knew her back was up against the wall. She went full throttle, and
that was
she almost pulled it out.
She did most of that damage to Rose's face in that third round.
Yeah.
She was sprinting to the finish, and good on her for putting her foot on the gas and trying to finish. But good fight. I was happy that I was wrong. But after that one, it was all rights for me. All right. I'm not happy about all the rights, but right. I was impressed with Peter Yan. I was also impressed with Aldo. We made a big thing about I didn't think he belonged in that fight. I still don't think he belonged in that fight, but he performed better than I thought he was.
Okay, so let me think of a way to put this. Based on his performance in that fight, he proved that he still belongs among the elite in that division. However, he shouldn't have been in that fight.
Correct.
That wasn't his title shot.
That was very well said. That was very well said.
Well, I'm an articulate motherfucker.
You're a wordsmith. I thought Peter Yan put on a great performance. I thought the stoppage was very late and could have come about 200 punches earlier when he's turtled and not moving at all. I think if you're the referee and you're saying defend yourself 5 times, guy's not defending himself. You can stop the fight there.
Yeah, I think that I don't think there's a person on this earth that will disagree with you on that. He's got, if you look at all the champions in the UFC now, like he's got his work cut out for him.
Yeah.
If he wants to keep that belt,
Yep.
There's a long line of challengers for that belt.
We mentioned a few last week, and right now we'll talk about it more when the fight gets officially announced, but there's no one more that I want to see in that fight than Aljamain Sterling.
Yeah, I think he gets it.
I hope so.
I think he gets it.
I hope so. After the Jan Aldo fight, we had the Max and the Volkanovski fight, and this is a case where I was right in my prediction, but I'm not happy about it, and I think that I was wrong in my prediction because I disagree with the decision.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Yeah. See, I was like the opposite. Like I thought Max won last time. But I thought Volkanovski won this time. I thought he came on hard at the end. I thought he won the last 3 rounds. I thought, if you remember us talking about it, I said that I thought Max had figured him out at the end of the last fight, and that would carry over in the opening part of this fight. And I feel like that's exactly what happened. He was able to establish his range. He's a very mobile fighter, Max.
Yeah.
And he was able to, work his game plan early. And I just thought after the second round, I'm like, he's going to sweep this fight. He's going to sweep the judges' scorecards on this. And then Volkanovski just turned it on.
Well, if you watch the embeddeds leading up to the fight, every time they showed Volkanovski hitting mitts, he had a shin guard on his right leg, his back leg, and that was it. No shin pad on his front leg. And then when the fight started, he wasn't really throwing the leg kicks to the outside. He threw in the first fight. He was throwing all to the inside. So I would assume that there was some injury there that was limiting what he was doing, and that might maybe let Max be more mobile. I think as the fight went on, Volkanovski had to figure out the rhythm a little bit more when he couldn't use that leg kick to slow him down as much like he did in the first fight. And as rounds 3, 4, 5 progressed, he figured out alternate ways to do that. I think it's very obvious Max won the first 2 rounds. I think Volkanovski clearly won 4 and 5. It's that third round that's going to be, I think Max won it. You think Volkanovski won it.
Yeah.
I don't agree with people saying it was a robbery, because I think a robbery is a blatant bad decision. I just disagree with this decision, and I can see the other side of why people think they're right and I'm wrong.
Right. And then the worst part about this is, like, these are clearly the top 2 guys in the world at 145 pounds. Clearly. Clear cut. And
that's what I said
twice.
That's what I said to Amanda Jean when we were watching the fight. They're not going to fight a third time because it's not 1-1. It's 0-2. You know what I mean?
So I just, barring any unforeseen circumstances, I would guess that Max leaves 45.
I don't know.
I don't know.
He'll have to come on and tell us.
Max, seriously, I don't appreciate you not responding to my DMs.
I know you've been busy, but come on, man.
In all seriousness, I only asked to stay at your house in Hawaii one time. I know that I crossed the line, but if we can just look past that and you can come on the show and just talk about whatever you want.
We'll air it out.
I'll stay at a hotel there. We'll have Festivus on.
I think he's got a lot more grievances towards you than you have towards him.
But it's a shame because I would totally, it would be okay if they fought a third time. I don't think you'd hear a lot of complaints.
I'd buy it.
But that's not going to happen.
No.
That's not how the UFC rolls.
And I don't think Max goes to 155 because we saw in the Poirier fight, I think he's just a little too small for 55.
Yeah, maybe he bulks up. Maybe take some time out and bulks up.
Maybe. I don't know. I know he's 28 years old and he's not anywhere close to the end of his career. I don't think he's close to the middle of his prime. And now what kind of stinks for Volkanovski, I think everyone who you could look at as a contender in that division, Max is already beaten.
I think the most logical choice for his next fight is going to be the winner of Korean Zombie and Ortega.
Yeah.
So,
but again, if you say Ortega wins that fight,
he got brutalized by Holloway.
Yeah, I don't know. We'll see how it plays out, but it's kind of an interesting logjam there at the top of the 145-pound division. So you move on to the main event, and you have Masvidal fighting against Usman, and I wrote on Twitter, Usman, you're so mad at this guy. Oh, I hate this guy. I'll stand up and stomp on his foot a bunch of times. That'll show him. I get you took a fight on 6 days' notice and you're a good wrestler and he's not, but Khabib's a good wrestler and Conor's not. And Khabib moved, took him down, smashed him, looked to finish it the whole time. Usman had no desire to finish that fight.
He's a mixed martial artist. He's not a fighter, but he had a calculated game plan going into it. Dominick Cruz said it best. He used the cage as the ground. He needed to put Masvidal's back against something. He put it against the cage and he went to work. We were
went to work implies that he did damage that.
Executed his game plan.
You stomped on his foot. You landed a few shots to the liver, but you put him against the cage, and instead of laying and praying, you just leaned and prayed. And
he's not a killer. He's not a killer. But he executed a game plan that we knew how this fight was going to go. We called this last week.
Yes, we did, because we're very smart people.
We're intelligent and we are articulate. But it played out exactly how we thought it would. It's just, you knew that as that fight went on, it was going to go in the direction of Usman. And even after the fight, Masvidal, and it wasn't an excuse. He said, "I would love to have this even with this. I'd love to have this fight even with a 6-week training camp." It's a legitimate point that he's making.
Yeah.
It's just a risk that you take when you take a fight on 6 days' notice. I know that he was in Poirier's camp. I know that he'd been training. I know that he was probably in better condition than he initially let on. But he wasn't preparing for Kamaru Usman for a 5-round championship fight.
And
that
like we
makes
said,
a difference.
like we said last week, on 6 days' notice and I think 25 pounds overweight 6 days before the fight. Like, I don't care who you are or how good you are at cutting weight. Dropping 25 pounds in a week is going to deplete you. And your cardio is not going to be the same as a guy who was already training for a 5-round title fight. You saw in the first round, Masvidal was very explosive, very quick, and yeah, if I was his coach, I'd tell him the same thing. Go out there as quick as you can and try to finish this fight early and try to clip him. He obviously slowed as
he didn't have his cornerman. He didn't have his cornerman either.
Well, he had Mike Brown on FaceTime, but I don't think that really counts as Mike Brown as your cornerman in the corner. It was. We kind of touched on it last week. If you're going to fight for a world title, it's the close to literal worst case scenario to fight for a title. He still went out there, and again, credit to Usman for also taking a title fight on 6 days' notice. And I think people got excited because in Usman's last fight against Covington, you had two wrestlers who kind of neutralized each other. So they stood and just swung at each other, and there was a lot of damage. And I think people were like, okay, this is the Usman we've been waiting for. But the opponent's not the same, and Masvidal is not the same wrestler as Covington. So Usman's going to, like you said, do what he has to do to win the fight. You could have done the same game plan, but actually taken him down and pounded his face and been aggressive, but you're just not an aggressive bro, I guess.
Here's the other thing. That did like 1.3 million pay-per-view buys. Like,
This
isn't Kamaru Usman. This ain't you, buddy. You're not selling fucking pay-per-views.
Do you want to know?
Cringe.
One of the truest ways that you can tell who's got the star power and who's pulling is if you look at the UFC will always put up like the post-event press conference, and they'll post like, here's Usman, here's Masvidal, here's Aldo. Every one of those videos had about 200,000 views, except for Masvidal's, who the last time I checked it was like over 1 million views. So you had one guy in the main event who is the champion doing 20% of the viewership that the challenger is bringing in. Like, Masvidal got a new fight contract out of taking this fight. You know he's going to work his way back to fighting in a title fight again. Maybe they have him fight Conor McGregor to get the two biggest draws right now to fight each other, but I think Masvidal still came out of this weekend as a winner, even though he didn't win the fight.
Yeah, this is, you know, and he can thank Nate Diaz for that, because by Nate calling him out, really put him into the spotlight.
It did, and it's fun to look at those like inciting incidents that led to him fighting on Saturday. Was Nate Diaz, after one of Nate's fights, said he wanted to fight Masvidal, which led to, and then I think Masvidal, like I said, is still in good shape. I think he'll fight the title again. I think
he is a. You have to look at it like he's probably one of the top 5 draws. Top 10 draws in the UFC right now.
I would say top 5 for sure.
Yeah,
and it doesn't hurt when you're top 5 in your weight class as well in terms of ability. The more drawing power you have, the farther down the rankings you can go and still get big title fights. And I think if he wins 1 or 2 more, like he said in the cage after the Usman fight this weekend, I'll win a few more and we can run it back. And I think that is what will happen.
Whoever he will, he'll beat Nate Diaz again if they fight. And I really don't think that the UFC will put McGregor in the position to get brutalized by him.
I don't know. I don't know. I think if you really think that McGregor is done, if they really think he's never going to fight again, and they can convince him to take one more, that's the play.
What you're saying. Okay, so that's what you're saying. You're not saying that McGregor wouldn't get brutalized by him.
No. I think Masvidal would take it to him.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. We're on the same page with that.
Yeah, I think if you're the UFC, you play it smart. If you know that McGregor's retired, you can flash some money at him to get him to fight one more time, you're going to get what you can out of him. You're going to milk him for all he's worth. Put him in there with the current biggest draw in the game, and
I agree.
Sit on your stacks of money. They also announced this week that Venom is going to be replacing Reebok as the official apparel and equipment sponsor for the UFC. Have you ever used anything Venom?
I have, and apparently Venom is fucking #ballin'. Like, that's crazy money.
That's
if
crazy
you think about it.
Yep.
How much they must be putting out for this.
Yeah,
that's fucking crazy.
I saw that the Reebok deal, I don't remember off the top of my head how many years exactly the Reebok deal has been going on, but they just hit like $35+ million paid out just to athletes.
Yeah.
I didn't even know Venom had $35 million to spare. I thought that was 8 times their value.
You know that it'll bring them in money, but you know that they have to have a shit ton of capital that they're able to show.
Yeah.
Proof of up front before they sign on this deal. Like, the UFC is just not going to go and say, like, in good faith and be like, oh, no, you got this. And,
I'm sure you guys will sell enough gis and mouthpieces.
Fuck. I never, like, when you're talking about fucking Reebok or Nike, remember when Nike sponsored John Jones?
Yeah.
Like,
Bones Nose was the shirt. Bones Nose.
When you're talking about Reebok, Nike, Adidas, like, that's like, you're talking mega brands.
Yep.
And then you're talking Venom, and they're not in the same conversation. Like, they're not even in the same
maybe we're just out of touch in the apparel.
No, we're not.
I don't know.
No, we're not. But anyway, they have to be, again, #ballin'.
I have used the Venom mouthpiece for years. Different ones. I buy a new one every year, but their mouthpieces are good. That's as much as I can say. I did have a Venom gi for a little while. I didn't love it. It's nowhere near as good as an Always Be Choking gi, which you should check out, Always Be Choking gis, but
ABC.
It was okay. ABC. So then after that card on Saturday, we had the Submission Underground card on Sunday, which has been controversial.
Shocker!
So Mason Fowler defeated Craig Jones via what the referee was calling a verbal submission. Craig Jones did not seem to agree that it was a verbal submission.
Yeah. Craig Jones was obviously in a very bad spot there. Just comes down to personal interpretation at that point.
Yeah, I mean, I think the referee heard Craig Jones make a noise. If you didn't see the match, the overtime rules had Mason Fowler on Craig Jones's back, and Mason Fowler had what looked like a neck crank. He had it, instead of a rear naked choke grip, he had it across the face. They were falling to the side, and Craig made like sort of a grunt that you do sometimes when you're rolling, and the ref called the fight off and said that it was a verbal tap.
Yeah, I think it was a little bit more than a grunt. It was obviously, he was in obvious pain.
Yes. But you know what? I wasn't there to know what really happened, but it would be great if we could talk to someone who was.
It would be cool, right? If somebody who was there with like firsthand knowledge of this entire event.
And who maybe is now the greatest grappler in the world, if they could tell us what they thought from their perspective.
Yeah, that would be...
Wait,
come on here? You mean come on here?
Yeah, we'll be come on here and already scheduled to talk to us this week. In case you didn't catch the subtle hints, tune in next week for Mason Fowler on our show.
We're the king of subtle hints. We're the kings of subtlety. All right, guys, thanks for hanging out with us tonight. Huge thanks to Brian Marvin for coming on the show and talking about the grappling event and the We Defy Foundation. If you'd like to follow him on Instagram, you can find him at Brian_Marvin. And I know we talked about it earlier, but this is a really, really incredible charity. They're doing a lot of great things for veterans out there. And, the fact that they're incorporating Jiu Jitsu into this is even more incredible. So if you'd like to follow the We Defy Foundation, you can find them on Instagram at We Defy Foundation, and you can find them online at www.wedefyfoundation.org. Either on the Instagram page or the website, you can find directions on how to make a donation if you'd like to. Don't forget to follow our show on Instagram at that_jiu-jitsu_podcast. And if you'd like to follow me, you can find me at m_Callahan106.
You can also follow me directly on Instagram at Justin Lesko. And if you're listening to the audio only version of this, you can watch the full video episode, and every episode we do is available on YouTube. You just have to search for That Jiu-Jitsu Podcast. We also have a new thing with patreon.com where you can get early access to episodes, you can get technique breakdowns, you can get extended interviews, and right now we're actually offering anyone who signs up with us on Patreon a free t-shirt from the show. Just visit us at patreon.com/thatjujitsupodcast. Say thank you one more time.
Thank you one more time.
Thanks, guys. We'll see you next time.
Thanks, guys.